So, next slide. As a rule of thumb, men in their 30s, 40s, and 50s should not even bother dating girls in the same decade. And this is most common. This is the first thing that surprises guys that like get divorced in their late 30s, early or 40s and 50s is they initially almost all will date somebody that was about their wife's age, 2 or 3 years younger than them. And then they go, man, this is terrible. These girls are in bad shape and they're hateful. And the first thing we do when we get these guys is, how do you feel about younger girls? And they're like, well, I don't want to date a 22-year-old. And we're like, no. Like 10 years. Like you're 45. How about a 35-year-old girl? It is it's like night and day. That 10-year age gap just seems to be the sweet spot. Again, if you're 38, 28. If you're 48, 38. 10 years is a big swing. When you get older, it's a good space, and it's not as extreme as 30 and 20. And you get on the ground, you see. But again, it's the first thing that we suggest, because when girls, especially in their 30s, 40s, 50s, are your age, one, you're working against the current, because one, you remind them of her ex-husband, because you're about his age. You remind them of their ex-bosses. You remind them of all the ex-boyfriends that have done them wrong. You remind them of every bad thing that's happened. But if there's a 10-year gap, generally she hasn't dated guys 10, 15 years older than her whole life. I mean, there's a difference. So, and they will tend to defer, and they tend to be more relaxed. And again, they have 10 years less wear and tear on them, both mentally and physically. But the mental can be just as tough as the physical. You just don't see it. They're a mess inside. Bunny's good at spotting that before I spot it, which is really crazy. Bazooka, I am open for questions. I'll do the best I can. And let me know what it is, and hopefully I'll be able to see it. I don't always do well with this laptop. My apologies. Still a little short on the technology sometimes. Must be 28 or older for a 10-year age gap. Yes, correct. And that's the real deal with age gap. Look for 10 years to begin, that 8 to 10 years, and just test it out. If you're not having a lot of luck with girls, because we don't always, a lot of guys, when they reach out, they're like, hey, I'm dating this girl 3 or 4 years younger than me. And they're happy. And they just want to make some minor adjustments, or they want to know how to move her to the next level. But if you're struggling and, you're in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, a lot of times you need to drop the age. And guys aren't even aware. It's easy. And there's just certain like landmines that you kind of need to avoid. Again, like with most game, it's about what you don't do that will help you be successful. In my book, Younger Women, the definitive guide to age gap dating, answers all those questions. But most importantly, it shows you how not to step on a landmine that will blow your leg off. And she's like, oh, I can't believe I was dating this guy. You don't want to put yourself in that position. It's very easy to avoid and not make a misstep or, put your foot on the wrong thing. It happens all the time. And again, these girls tend to, a lot of guys I've noticed in their 40s and 50s will still want more kids, or they want another family. And a girl who's 40 is like, my uterus is closed for business. I'm not doing that. So a lot of this sometimes does come down to logistics, and it works for everybody. And so that's the real deal on men in their 30s, 40s, and 50s should not even bother dating girls in the same decade. Let's take a question. I'm always trepidatious about this. Let's see.